Hi, this is Chef Paul. We're going to be making a tomato sauce or a marinara sauce that is going to go in our lasagna. We're actually going to make it rather than just buy a canned one. So we're going to be utilizing, I got my mise en place here with all our stuff. So we're going to be using crushed tomatoes. So you buy a crushed tomato. Your tomato sauce, the better the tomato, the better the sauce. If you can find different styles, the ones from California are the best. So I get a crushed tomato. I already got it here. So I got crushed tomatoes, I got tomato paste. I'm going to be putting onions, mushrooms, garlic. I got different herbs or spices and salt. And we're going to be using a stock instead of water to do it. So what you start with is, you're going to get a pan with olive oil, which is hot right now. Turning it down, I got olive oil in the pan, and we're going to start browning our onions and garlic. So we're going to go ahead and put it in here. We're going to add our onions. We're going to add some garlic. Get that onions and garlic in there. You want to brown it. And you can put anything in a tomato sauce. I'm actually going to make this one with mushrooms. Okay, so you get that nice. Start browning that there. Now get it. Keep it high. Get that nice and hot. We want to get browning. We want to get some browning in there. Now I'm going to add some mushrooms. I'm going to be doing this with mushrooms, so I'm going to add the mushrooms in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and start seasoning it. I'm going to throw some salt, right? A little bit of salt. Also a little bit of garlic salt. You can put whatever you want, whatever you like. A little bit of seasoning, and then we'll let it go for a little bit. Keep cooking it. Keep it on high. You want to get some browning on your onions and your garlic. So we're going to let this go, and then we're going to come back and we're going to check it in 2-3 minutes. All right, so we've cooked this for another 3 minutes or so. We got some onions and the garlic. You got some of the browning. The sugar's starting to come out of the onions now and the garlic. I'm going to go ahead and add the tomatoes. So we're just going to use a ground tomato. So we put our ground tomatoes in here. Put our ground tomatoes. All right, we'll kind of move it around. Now we're going to add our stock. You can use water. You can use chicken stock or you can use vegetable stock. This is actually a vegetable stock. Let that go. Add some tomato paste. Now we're going to mix this. We bring it up, and now we're going to check on this in about 30 minutes. We're going to see where we're at, and we're going to cook it. We'll continue to cook it. All right, so we got our marinara sauce is going over here on the side. I added some basil to it, and we'll re-season it in about 30-40 minutes. We'll just let that cook. And now we got to get our noodles going for lasagna. So you'll get your basic lasagna noodles. I got them here. I'm going to cook them. I got my water boiling. You're going to add a little bit of oil to it. Just a little bit of oil. You don't have to add oil to it in a sense. If you don't have it, it does help with, as you pull through the water, it helps with it not sticking. I'm going to add roughly a tablespoon of salt. Make sure you put salt in the water. If you don't put salt in the water, it doesn't flavor the pasta. It makes a big difference. So we got our salt in there. We got our water boiling. You see it nice and boiling. Now you add the pasta. It needs to be boiling. Okay, that's going to be the key. You don't just put it in. It's boiling. Now we're going to go ahead and put the pasta in. So you're just going to kind of put these in, and when you're dealing with pasta, you never break it. So if we're doing spaghetti, which we will, and linguine, you don't break them. Okay, you're going to put them in, and then you're going to use a wooden spoon to move them so they don't stick. All right, so we're going to let these sit in here, and we're going to cook them for a little bit. All right, and then we're going to check on them in about 7 minutes. About 3-4 minutes, they're not quite ready, but you can see now that they're pliable. I've been moving them so they don't stick. If you just throw them in and you don't move them, they're going to stick together. Well, you can see these aren't sticking, and I've been moving them around with the wooden spoon. So they should look like this. Needs another 2 to 3 minutes. We'll check back. All right, so we cooked our noodles, our lasagna pasta. So it's cool now. What I did was I took it, I put them in a colander and just let it set here to cool them down. They're not overcooked so they don't break. They're gonna cook an hour in the oven, so you don't want them overcooked because they're gonna continue to cook in the oven. So we're gonna go like that, let them set. I'm gonna show you the sauce over here. So we got our tomato sauce going. This one has mushrooms. You can put meat, you can put whatever. I did add basil to it. I'm gonna let it go for an hour and then we're gonna taste it. And then from there, we're gonna see if we need to add anything else to it, but we're gonna let it go. It needs to start to get thick. We're just gonna let it go for another hour. Our sauce that's still going and it's simmering nicely. We got our noodles. Now we gotta make the filling. Now the filling is, we're gonna make a traditional lasagna filling. Now we're gonna use ricotta cheese. It's best to use whole milk ricotta cheese if you can get it. So I'm gonna put that inside. All right, so I'm gonna put some whole milk ricotta cheese in there. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. So we're going to add some Parmesan to it. Gotta get that Parmesan in there, okay? And then we're going to add mozzarella, whole milk mozzarella, right? So we're going to put some mozzarella cheese in here. This is going to be obviously a cheese lasagna. Okay, get that going in here. We're going to add a little bit of salt. So I'm going to get a pinch of salt, a little bit of salt, a little garlic salt to it. Why not? And we're going to add some fresh black pepper to it as well. Okay. Now we're going to add eggs to it. You got to add an egg to it this will help it so it holds together, right? So you add a little bit of egg so when you cut the lasagna, the filling actually stays together. So we're going to get that there. Maybe get a wooden spoon. And we're going to start stirring it, okay? So we're going to get this nice and stirred. And I'm going to mix it. So you just kind of mix it up. Okay, just keep mixing that up. All right, you're gonna get it all nice and mixed. It's a real basic filling. This is a traditional cheese lasagna. We have ricotta cheese in here, Parmesan cheese in here, mozzarella cheese in here. So you got 3 cheeses. And then the egg, like I said, you put that egg in there and that will help bind it when you cook it so it stays firm. All right, there you go. All right, we're gonna start here with putting the lasagna together. As you can see, we made our marinara sauce. If you look at it, it's cooked over an hour, probably about an hour and a half. So the water evaporated out. So now I'm gonna add some fresh oregano. If you have fresh herbs, if I had basil, I'd be putting that in too, but I don't have any basil. I use dry basil. Now you can, any fresh herbs, I always recommend you put them in at the end. All right, dry herbs, go ahead and put them in while you're cooking. It's not a problem. But the fresh herbs, just put them in at the end and you don't lose the flavor. It'll stay in much, much better. So just add them at the end. So again, the marinara sauce has garlic and onions, right? It has ground tomatoes, it has paste. We use stock. So stock is a big thing that you use in cooking instead of water. I use vegetable stock. If you didn't have vegetable stock, you could use chicken stock. And you can add chicken stock into it. You can use water, but it gives it better flavor. Now, tomato sauce. The key with tomato sauce is tomatoes have a lot of acid in them. So the better your tomato, the better your sauce. So if you're getting a tomato that's it's an okay tomato, that's when you look at people adding sugar and sweeteners to it. Why? Because there's so much acid they're trying to cover up that acid flavor. So the better tomatoes you have, the more naturally sweet, you don't even have to add any sugar or anything. So when you're buying tomatoes to actually make sauce, always go with the best tomato you can get. So we're going to put this thing together now. So what you do is we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to it. So what you do is I put a little bit of olive oil on the bottom here, and the reason is I don't want it to stick. You know, when you're making lasagna, you don't want, so you can take it out. This will make a big difference when you're actually going to be taking it out of the pan. So you just put a little bit of oil on the bottom, right? Just like that. Put a little oil on the bottom. Then I'm going to take a little bit of sauce. I'm just going to put a little bit. You know, I'm just going to put that oil on the bottom. It's going to help it so it does not stick. So this is the key with getting lasagna so it doesn't stick on the bottom. A little olive oil, just like that. And then I'm going to put a little tomato sauce on it, just on the bottom. And then we're going to build it. Okay, so we have all our mise en place here. Ready? I have my tomato sauce. I got the mixture we already made. This has got the ricotta, the mozzarella, and the Parmesan. And then we have more mozzarella and Parmesan. And our pasta is already cooked and ready to go. We cooked it 10 minutes, remember. You don't have to cook it that long because it's going to cook for an hour basically in the oven. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lay this out. And it doesn't have to be perfect because, you know, it's going to be covered in cheese and sauce, but just kind of lay it out. I'm going to get this all laid out here like that. Kind of overlap them. But like I said, if they're broken, it's not a big deal. I got a little area here I need to do. I may cut it. So what you do is you get a knife and you just cut it, you know. And we can use this just like making a puzzle. You know, it doesn't quite fit. Oh, that won't work. We'll save that one here. All right, that looks pretty good. I'll put this little piece over there. Now we're going to start doing our first layer. All right, so we're going to start with the cheese. So I'm going to put some of this cheese mixture down. Okay, it just spreads better than putting the sauce down. So now it's easier to spread. So we're going to take it like this. And a little bit more. And then using a spatula, a rubber spatula, whatever you got, just kind of move it. You got to spread it. This is a pretty big pan, so we're going to make it a pretty large one. Okay, just like that. And you can put anything in here. You can add other things to it. You could add other vegetables. I could saute peppers and put it on here. You can do anything. You could have, this could be loaded with meat. This one doesn't, but you can. Sausage, whatever. Spinach. We're making a real traditional cheese lasagna. All right, that looks pretty good. Gonna take a little bit more here, and now we're gonna, there you go, coat that up good. Now we're gonna put a little bit of sauce. Put the sauce on it. You don't want to overdo the sauce because that's when you can't. You want it to hold. So when you cut the lasagna, it's not. It'll really be nice and firm when you cut it. There we go. Look at that. Looks pretty good. All right. Now we're going to take this here and we're going to add some cheese. So now I'm going to add some more. This is mozzarella. So we add more mozzarella. See that? That mozz on there good. Parmesan. Gotta have Parmesan. All that Parmesan. Maybe a little more sauce. Looks like a little dry on this side, so we're adding just a little more sauce to it. More sauce. That's nice. All right. Looks pretty good. More cheese. Cover it up. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and we're going to start all over again, and we do one more layer. So I did that same layer which you just saw one time. Now I've added a final layer of pasta, and now we're almost ready to bake it. So I'm going to put a little more sauce and cheese, just not the ricotta, and we're going to bake it in the oven. So I'm just going to add a little bit on here, just going to kind of spot it. You know, we'll spot it with a little bit, and move it around, and then we're going to bake this whole thing in the oven. It's going to take about an hour. And that's why I was saying with the pasta, I'm not worried about is the pasta cooked all the way, because it's going to cook in the oven. So you just need to, when you cook it, that 10 minutes is really just enough to get it pliable. The rest of it will cook in the oven. So I'm going to take some of this cheese now, and we're going to coat it with cheese again, and then we're going to put this in the oven. Put all that cheese in there, put some Parmesan. And then we're going to go ahead and put this in the oven. See, it's well coated with cheese. We got the mozzarella, the Parmesan. It's layered. So now we're going to go ahead and put it in the oven. All right, so we just took the lasagna out of the oven. It was in a 350, 325 degree oven. It was in for, actually, this one was in for 55, 57. So you're talking about an hour. So it's going to be in there for about an hour, depending on the size. This is a big lasagna. Lasagna, you want to get that nice crust. Now, the thing with lasagna is you can't cut this right now. So now this is going to have to set for a while, and then you'll cut it, and then you can put more marinara sauce on it, whatever you need. And that's what you guys will be making.